morning. Welcome to the Fox's Tales show. My name's Phil. This is Leicester Fan TV. So good welcome to you on that. Tonight, we are joined by another ex-Leicester City player. To be fair, a favourite of mine from back in the day, Paul Reid, Reedy, as I used to, and all the fans in the Cop used to give him lots and lots of love. So get your questions in to Paul Reid now in tonight's Fox's Tales show. So join us shortly with Paul Reid. Yeah, indeed. Get your questions in. Sadly, Tom can't make it tonight. He was going to be hosting tonight's show. Not a problem stepping in for him. Brad Norman says, good evening to you. Brad, how are you? What would you like to ask Paul Reid? Do you remember him? What do you remember of him? The good stuff, the exciting stuff. It was a tumultuous time. That's probably a made-up word of mine, going through when Paul Reid was part of Leicester City. He joined us in 1986. He left us in 1992. He made over 162 appearances for us in the Blue City shirt. And he scored around 20-odd goals, a couple of stunners as well, one of which I seem to remember, if my memory is right, was a goal of the season. So if you would like to get your questions into Paul Reid, who I'm just about to add into the stream now, get them in the comments and we will ask him. Paul.
Evening. How are you?
Can you hear us, Paul?
Yeah, fine. Yeah, loud and clear.
Do you know what, Paul? I'm really sorry. I can't hear you. So I'm going to take you out and just ask you, can you click on the link again, Paul? Is that all right?
Yeah, okay, no problem.
Thanks, Paul. I don't know why that's... I've lost... We did a test beforehand, but sadly, we didn't get any sound there. Hopefully you can hear me. Or Mick Bell is watching. Can you hear us, Mick? What are your memories, Mick, of... you're old enough, Mick, to remember Paul Reid from back in the 80s, aren't you? So what are your memories? Brad Norman says he's too young. Come on, Brad. Paul, can you hear me now?
I can hear you fine, yeah. Can you hear me?
I can. Thanks, Paul. Sorry about that little bit of a technical problem there at the start, especially after we'd tested it.
I know, yeah.
Paul, it's great to have you on. Thanks a lot for joining us. We want to talk a little bit about what you're up to now, but let's start with Leicester City time, and that's where we're going to focus on. Obviously, you joined us back in 1986. The usual question we ask fans, what tempted you to come to Leicester City?
I think it was just a setup, really. Obviously, when I joined with Dave Richardson, who was youth team manager, the setup was great. With the likes of Jim Wright and Pat Davis, who take the training as well. And I think it was just the training ground. It was good. They had an indoor gym. And to be fair, like my local clubs like Birmingham, Villa, West Brom, Wolves, even Everton, I went on trial then, but they all thought I was too small. Leicester took a chance on me, and fortunately, I thought I did well in, as you said, over 162 games. I think I had a quick check. I think I'm in the top 100 of league career games for the Foxes. So I'm really chuffed with that.
Yeah, indeed. Who was the manager who signed you? Because it was around the time of Gordon Milne and Brian Hamilton. Was it that combination that pulled you in? Yeah,
Gordon Milne was first team manager. Jerry Summers was assistant manager at the time. I remember as a 16-year-old being asked to train with the first team squad, with the likes of Ian Wilson, Gary Lineker, Alan Smith, Bobby Smith, Paul Ramsey, John O'Neill. So there's some legends there. With me as a 16-year-old training with them boys, Kevin MacDonald, and I'm like, wow, this is unreal. But Mark Wallington, the goalkeeper, but they made you feel so welcome. I think that was a thing what Leicester did really well. They sent obviously a couple of the apprentices up to train with the first team, just to give them that experience and just a chance to show what you can do, really.
Yeah, and then Brian Hamilton came in. Things changed, didn't they, with the managers a little bit, because it was Gordon. Did Gordon Milne go up a higher level, and Brian Hamilton come in to take the day-to-day training sort of side?
Yeah, well, I can remember. I think Gordon Milne moved up to what they call now as football technical director or advisor to the first team manager. Obviously, Brian Hamilton came in. I played a couple of pre-season games, I think, and then it was halfway through the season. We had there was about 4 of us. I think it was me, if I can remember right, Phil Horner, Paul Bunce, Kevin Joblin. Sort of said the first team manager doesn't fancy you, Brian Hamilton. I think we were all first year pros, me and Kevin.
Yeah.
I think Paul Bunce and Phil Horner like were second years, and said, listen, the first team manager doesn't fancy you, which is fine. I remember playing a game away at Sunderland in the reserve, and the first team manager had a go at me for being too soft. So I remember the next game I went out on a Saturday morning, the old team. I can't remember who played, but I just had a nasty streak into me. I smashed everything. I elbowed people, and within the space of a month, I made my first team debut away at Southampton. First team debut away at Southampton, but during the week we'd been on a trip to Valencia, where I think we beat them 1-0, and then I set the goal up for Adam Smith, and then made my debut on the Saturday, Southampton away. And I still got the shirt that I wore, which is there. Oh,
what a classic!
Which is there. So, and
fantastic.
Number 8 on the back, so I've still got that. Yet to get it framed.
Yes, about time. You've had a couple of years to get that sorted. Yeah. You were always, and I'm saying this from somebody who stood on the cop at Filbert Street, watched you and cheered you on, and did the old Reedy, all that sort of stuff. You were always one of the fans' favourites, because, like you say, when you broke in, you did play with passion, you did play with a smile on your face, you did have a bit of grit about you, and obviously you were quite an exciting player to watch. What was it sort of like being a player at Filbert Street in those days? Because I just want to remind some of the Leicester fans who watch this now are used to the King Power Stadium, 32,000 sellouts. Some of the average attendances back in the day at Filbert Street was only like about 11, 12, 15,000 fans, but it was a noisy place at times.
But boy, yeah, I was just going to say, boy, did it rock, especially like obviously the Cop, because I remember the away fans used to be next to them. And sometimes they used to have the small stand across the way. I can't remember what it was called.
The East Stand, yeah.
And then they used to have some. So back in those days, there was always banter with the fans. They were noisy, they were loud, and it was some place to play. I think it's only when you realise when it's not there anymore. When you finish your career, how good a place it was, and how lucky you were to be in that environment as a professional footballer, especially as a great club like Leicester and Filbert Street hold so many great memories for me. Scored some cracking goals there. I'm not blowing my old trumpet, but I did. And it was a great place to play. And more often than not, I did get a good reception from the fans. There was obviously a couple who didn't like me for for reason or another, but that's what you get in football.
I think I'm surprised to hear you say that, Paul, because I think generally you were one of those players that people got right behind and did enjoy cheering. One of the Facebook users here has said, always remember his goal against Blackburn. It was a great goal. You did, I don't know if it was the Blackburn goal. Did you get goal of the season as well for one of your goals? I seem to remember it being a great strike.
Yeah, I think that's what the gentleman was on about there. I think we went up there. Blackburn were flying at the top of the league at the time. We were on a really good run. We had some excellent players in the team at the time. Peter Weir, Paul Cooper, Russell Osman, Steve Walsh. We had a real good Ali, Paul Ramsey, Mike New. I can go through them all. David Croft. We had a real good team that David Pleader put together. And I think the goal of the season was second goal, where I think it was a pass from Gary McAllister into David Croft, who put it out on halfway line to me, and I just kept running, kept going, and put it in. And I think it was the only goal ever to be voted at the time away goal of the season. Sorry, the goal of the season for an away goal. And I've still got the big silver plate in my back room in the cabinet. I think 1988, I think it was, something like that.
Yes, I think that rings a bell that it was that year. Mick Bell has said he's watching. Mick says he was in the Cop back in those days. He says what he remembers about you was your tough tackling, Paul, which for an attacking type player, I remember it as well, that you were not frightened of getting stuck in.
Yeah, that's where it goes back to, again, when Dave Richardson got us into the first team dressing room at Filbert Street and said the first team manager doesn't fancy you. Brian Hamilton on an away trip back from Sunderland saying you're too soft as a centre forward. right, there we are then. So next game I just went out, just decided, and then from then that probably was the making of, made me not the player I was, because I think, I was an average player, but I was, an average player, average to good player.
And I think a good player, Paul.
Yeah, I should have more confidence in myself, but it's one of them things. It's also I'm too soft. So the next time I just went out and then, just carried on, just, tackle, smash people. And, for Neil Warnock has signed me 3 times. So obviously that has had some impact in his decision to sign me as well. But I like to think I could play a little bit as well, so, but no.
And I mean, you were quite tough tackler. Somebody who, I mean, in modern day Leicester City, we quite often refer back to, if only the current team had an Ali Mockland in the side. I mean, he probably wouldn't survive long without getting red cards. But what was it like playing alongside somebody like Ali Mockland in there?
When David Pleat came in, he put me on the right wing, being left-footed, and I had Ali behind me. So, and obviously then you had like the likes of Steve Walsh. One time Mickey Kennedy was in the team as well. So, there was Paul Ramsey, another one. We had some really hard players who wouldn't shy out of a tackle, and the likes of Ali and Steve Walsh demanded that of everyone else around them. So although it wasn't a successful time, it was a good successful time for me, being involved with those players, having to do the dirty things, having to put your foot in, having to tackle, having to look after your teammates when there's something going wrong. So I mean, it was just great to play, with the likes of them, like as I said, like Ali, Steve Walsh.
Yeah.
The 3 who were really like tough tackling, hard men.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking back through my Foxes and Fossils book, which I've got, looking at the players in the era you played with, there is some great names that you were in those squads with you, like you say, from keepers, even Muggo, Carl Muggleton, Tony James, who we are going to come on to that game against Oxford with you in that season. Richard Smith, like you say, Walshy, Paul Ramsey, Simon Morgan. I always remember Chesty Morgan. A couple of players I want to talk to you about, a bit of wildcard players maybe who came in. Kevin Campbell came in on loan for a short period and had quite a successful loan period before he went on to have a lot of success. Do you remember much with Kevin Campbell?
Yeah, Casey, young lad. Casey was brilliant when he came in. Really nice guy, down to earth. I think he was only 19 when he came.
Yeah,
settled in straight away. Loads and loads of talent. I remember spending 1 or 2 evenings with Kevin when he was stopping at the Holiday Inn in Leicester. 1 or 2 evenings spent with him, having a few beers, having a chat and whatever.
Yeah,
really nice guy and a real good footballer. You could tell he was going to go on to play for Arsenal's first team. I think we as a club and as players were quite lucky to have sort of that caliber of player, joining us.
Yeah, indeed. I remember watching. He did have a nice little performance for Leicester. Another striker you played with was Jari Rantanen, the mighty Finn.
Yeah.
Again, it caught us all a bit by surprise, and we couldn't, as fans, make out whether it was all a bit of a joke or whether he was really a great player. What was he like playing with?
He was huge. And
yes.
That football and ability, not being disrespectful, but that wasn't what he was about. He was a big target man. He tried to hold the ball up, and he scored a few goals. Because I think Jari was involved in my first ever goal for Leicester. It was away at Scunthorpe. In the League Cup. I think I set the first one up, and I scored one, and that was my first goal. And my mum and dad have still got a great picture of the after celebration, and me in the middle. You got Jari Rantanen and Mike Newell, and then you got Robbie James in the background strolling up. And it's a great memory. But yeah, Jari, he was just big, and I don't think he was sort of David Pleat's sort of type of player.
No. And how was it? I mean, the era of David Pleat was, from a fan's point of view, obviously we got relegated from the old Division 1, and then we had Division 2. We sort of finished around 15th and 13th for 3 or 4 seasons with David Pleat. How was he as a manager? Because obviously he came with a big kudos and has done fantastic things in the game. How was he to play under?
Yeah, he was, for me, he taught me a lot tactically about the game. Obviously he converted, because obviously when I first signed for Leicester, I was a centre forward. I remember, youth team scoring goals for fun. Youth Cup at Filbert Street, we beat Peterborough 6-0. I think I scored 5. Beat West Brom away 5-3. I think I scored 3. So I was out and out centre forward, playing with my back to goal. So obviously, when them times when you get breaded into the reserves, you sort of get chucked out of the middle and looked after, sort of thing, on the left hand side. But when David come in and took over and put me on the right wing for a reserve game, I was like, what the hell is this boy doing? I'm not right footed. But then after working in training with him and Gordon Lee at the time, sort of showed me a new dimension to football and what could be achieved. So, you look at the likes of Ronaldo and Messi now, they both sometimes play on opposite sides. So Ronaldo will play on the left, right-footed, and Messi will play on the right, left-footed. Same as Riyad Mahrez, obviously for Leicester, then on the right. And, I sometimes think if I was experienced now, what I know, then, I could have been pretty good. But it's obviously when you're finished and when you're young, you just think, I just want to play. I just want to play football. You don't sort of think about it. But David got me thinking about the game a lot more than what I did do.
Because you did play, like you said, you played in several different positions. You played like on the wing, you played centre forward. We talked about you played at sort of wing back as well, didn't you?
Yeah, wing back. And even like when Brian Little came in, I think I started the first game. I think we played Swindon away. First game, I think it was there was a big thing made about Glenn Hoddle because I think he just took over at Swindon, and I played most of the games pre-season in centre midfield. Went away to Swindon, and I think I hit the bar with a header right in the last couple of minutes. But Brian Little played me there. I got injured against Morecambe, I think, in the cup, and then couldn't get back in the team because the team was doing so well. Then he brought me back in as wing back. Played a couple of decent games, and then played all over the place really. But as a young boy, as a footballer, you just want to play. You don't mind where you play. You just want to play games.
Play your games, get your goals. I'm going to bring you towards your end of time at Leicester, but the 1991 season, which in many ways has given me some of my best memories, but probably because we were at the wrong end of the division that year. Yeah. We ended up, the last 2 games, I believe you scored in the away game at Ipswich, the game before the end, but I think we lost 3-2 or something. I don't know if you remember that game.
Yeah, I think we actually got lost. I think it was 4-1.
Oh, was it?
I think so, yeah. So I remember scoring, and then the Leicester fans were away in the left-hand side at the top.
Yeah, in the old Portman Road, yeah.
Portman Road, yeah. And that was for 1-0. And then God knows what happened after that.
And then obviously that rolled into one of the most famous Leicester games, which was the Leicester game at home against Oxford, which again, I was stood in the pens behind the goal, right behind where Tony James scored that. You were playing number 9 that day, Paul. What was it like as a player?
It's one of those things that I used to live in Oldby, Saffron Road, with my old landlady and landlord, Alan and Vera Lunn, who had a lot to do with the football club. I stayed there. Kevin Russell stayed with us. So I think Kevin, towards the end of that season, used to score some important goals. So everybody, he used to go to the local barbers and get an haircut. Not that he needed it, but he they've got Rooster. So we used to go just to build up to the game and like the atmosphere. And we knew that we had to get a result. And fortunate for us, Tony James stuck his big toe out and the ball ended up at the back of the net, which was great for me because after the game, my dad came to the game, and I don't know if people are aware, where I live, the local supporters there, they're all like either West Bromwich Albion or Wolverhampton Wanderers. So obviously on that day, we stayed up and West Brom went down. Yeah, they did. That's right. So I took my dad back, went into the local pub with my Leicester City tracksuit on, just to gloat really with all the Albion, all my mates from school and stuff like that. So that was a pretty good day, a good day for the fans. Yes. But I wouldn't want to wish that on supporters again because it was, it must have been really tough for them. But
it was. I mean, watching it was hideously exciting behind the goal. It was like it's something that modern day fans can't experience, Paul. By in some ways, in a good way, that in a modern stadium you get a great view, but that intensity as a fan, in a game like that. When Tony James scored, it was a real outburst in the pens behind the goal.
Yeah, the cop was mad. There was some mad people who went in there, you know,
Yes.
socialised like with a couple of them, you know, the old, whether I should mention, the old baby squad boys and stuff like that.
Yeah, you can say it.
They were down to earth and they loved the club and they were passionate, and every home game, you know, they'd be behind you, win, lose or draw. So it was a magnificent arena, especially like with the double decker behind it, and so there was some really great memories there for me.
Yeah, and obviously then we just coming towards the end of your career, you were very much in favour in those seasons leading up to, I think it was about 92, was it? 91, 92?
Yeah, 92, yeah.
Yeah, you got, what sort of, how come you left Leicester? Because it was back in the days, was it halfway through the season?
Yeah, I think I think I've been struggling with injury after I think I played the first 2 games, got injured, couldn't get back in, and then I come back in and we've done really well. I think we beat Swindon 3-0 at home when I played left wing back. Had a couple of good results after that, and then we went to Millwall, and it was like a sort of a back pass I made to Kevin Poole at the time. He was coming out, I was going back, I passed it to him, the ball missed, and they scored. And then since then, I didn't get back in. And it's one of them things, well, you know, the team are doing really well. I'm not going to get back in. You know, I don't want to just sit in the reserves and play. I want to be playing first team football. And I went on loan to Bradford City in the March. Frank Stapleton at the time was manager. Colin Todd was the assistant. So I went up there. I think I played 8 games and then got injured. Came back to Filbert Street, got treated, got back fit. Obviously watched the playoff games, the Cambridge games, trained with the squad for a week, went down to Wembley on the coach, not with the first team player, but not with the team, but we went down as a separate group. So there for, you know, the Wembley when obviously we lost 1-0 to Blackburn, but yeah, so, you know, it was sad really for me because I'd been there since I was like 14 until which is 10 years. I was 8 years sort of from 16 to 24, 8 years. It was a long time. Sad to leave, but probably the right time to leave. Maybe. Sorry, my daughter's just going out, just waving to her. The right time to leave. For me, you know, not to be stuck in the reserves, and you know, not that we earned a lot of money anyway, but just, you know, I wanted to get first team games.
Which you did you went on to like Bradford, Huddersfield, Oldham, Bury, Swansea. So you went on and played a lot of games for a few different teams, Paul.
Yeah, my stats. Hence my Twitter name is Reedy551 because of 551 league games.
Yeah,
and 58 goals. So it's not a bad,
it's an excellent career. Yeah,
return. You know, as I said before, to be, you know, I had a checkup earlier on. To be in the top 100 league appearances for Leicester, you know, it's only 162, 163. And I think I've got more than the legend Birch himself, I think.
Yes.
Which is some statement. But, you know, I was, you know, privileged to play for the club, privileged to play professional football, because nowadays, young professional, they get things handed on a plate where we were playing, the likes of me, Ali, Steve, Paul Ramsey, we had to work hard to make a living.
Paul, when you were there at that age, did you have to apprentice and look after one of the senior players, do the boot cleaning and that? Which players did you look after?
Paul Ramsey, Bobby Smith were my players. Yeah, Paul Ramsey, Paul Ramsey was something I couldn't understand the word that he'd say to me. But he had the worst pair of Adidas boots I've ever seen in my life. He'd already insist on wearing them for games. There were holes in them, there were rips in them. And I'm like, you want new boots? No, it's all right, I'll use them. So I just have to look after him, and Bobby Smith as well. So
yeah, Bobby Smith again from myself being a kid down there in the late 70s and 80s. Bless him, because obviously he's passed away now. But Bobby Smith, get on your bike, Bobby Smith. Everybody used to shout at him because he was a great fullback. Yeah.
Well, at that time when I was a apprentice, as I told you before, my job was I was on first team duty, match day duty, which meant being on the bench for first team games.
Yeah.
And it was always a funny story. I used to wait in the corridor at Filbert Street, and Gary Lineker always used to come, and always before the game, Jerry Summers used to say, "Come on, Gary, get those legs going." And he always looked down at me, put his eyebrows up and say, "Oh, here we go again." But yeah, it was great. Like, you know, having them boys, having trained with them boys, and my job was to clean up after them after training sessions and stuff like that. And so it was just good being amongst that environment.
Yeah, and you're now bringing it right up to nowadays, Paul. Obviously, when you finish football, I know you've done some managing and some academy stuff. Where are you at now? What's keeping you busy at the moment?
Yeah, I'm currently
Swansea.
No, I left Swansea. Swansea made me redundant in last May.
Okay.
Cost cutting. I was there for 2 years, full time. You know, I gave up my job because I worked for Royal Mail for 14 years, as well as still coaching in the academy and coaching first team in Welsh Premier League.
Yes.
Managing in Welsh Premier League. So they made me redundant. So at the moment, I'm youth phase lead at Forest Green Rovers. But I'm unsure about what I'm going to do next, because obviously where it is, I'm still living in Swansea. Travel costs are getting a little bit, so you know I'm going to have a rethink about what my next venture is going to be.
But post playing football, you've still been very much involved in it, and it's still been a big passion of yours, Paul.
Yeah, you know, since I was 16, I'm 52 now. So since I'm 16, I've always been in football, So I played for 19 years, finished at 35, played in the Welsh Premier League for 2 years, 3 years, coached for 5 years, also working in the academy at Swansea on a part-time basis for 12 years. So I've always been involved in football. You know, there have been a couple of jobs I have applied for. Leicester City under 18s being one. Unfortunately, I haven't received anything back, so you know that's probably a no.
Well, fingers crossed.
Yeah, I think it's a bit late now. You know, they were going to let people know a couple of weeks after the thing died, but you know, I don't expect any favours. You know, I have got my A license. The only one I haven't got is a pro license, which I think everybody, you know, especially a club like Leicester will attract pro licensed coaches. You know, not just from this country, but you know, probably from abroad as well.
Yeah.
Obviously, in the academy, I worked under when Brendan Rodgers was manager at Swansea. Worked in the academy, so know his philosophy, know his playing style. But yeah, so it's just I'm just at a crossroads at the minute on whether I continue at Forest Green or whether I try and look for something more local to where I am.
But still very much involved with the football side.
Still involved in football, but again, it's one of them. I've been involved from 16 to 52. What's that? 30 odd years, and never had a break from football. So maybe it might be time to finish, unless I get something else.
So a couple of quick fire questions for you, Paul, before we let you go. Once again, thanks for joining us. Quick fire questions. What's your favourite memory from your time at Leicester?
Leicester's got to be I wouldn't say my first team debut away at Southampton. I think it'd probably be my home debut. I think we played Charlton Athletic. I came on for the last 12 minutes. Steve Moran came off. I came on for the last 12 minutes. And for my mum and dad, who supported me throughout my career, were there to watch it. Obviously, goals I scored, Swindon at home. The second one I scored, Blackburn. Just being a professional footballer at Leicester, really.
Another quick fire one. Who was the biggest joker at Leicester City while you were there? Was there a joker in the pack? Somebody who was always larking around?
Tony Spearing.
Say.
Tony Spearing.
Can you remember any of the sorts of things he maybe used to get up to?
He was just a character. He was a typical Cockney wide boy.
Yes.
Typical, always loud, always on the go, taking the mick out of people. Accent. He always used to take the mick out of Alan Paris. Things that you can say on here,
no,
but
probably not nowadays.
No, but it was all in good fun. So yeah, Tony Spearing, I would say.
And who did you used to room with when you went to away games? Did you have a few or?
No, it was different, really. I mean, David Pleat used to put us with different people. I think my first trip away, I think we went on a pre-season tour to Germany, and I shared with Gary McAllister. We used to go. It's one of them where I can't really remember. If I'm honest. No. Alan Paris, I shared a couple of times, so we didn't really have an out-and-out room partner. Where nowadays, football players have this aura about them. They say, "I want to be with such and such." Where back in the day, you got put with who you were with, and that was it.
A different way. Who was, and one final quickfire question of your Leicester time, who do you think was the most skillful player you played with? Because there's, like you've listed, most skillful, the one where you, because people like Gary Mack, even, were you there with Kevin McDonald as well?
Kevin Mack.
Yeah,
I didn't play the first team with Kevin, but obviously I'd seen him play. God, Gary McAllister was different class, silky, stylish. His passing, everything he'd done was all stylish. But I would probably say, I know a lot of people, Peter Weir was absolutely magnificent. Yeah,
he came down from Scotland, didn't he, I think, to us. I'm trying to remember where he came from. Was it Rangers?
I'm not sure whether it was, I know he played for Aberdeen, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But Peter Weir, as a left winger, was absolutely fantastic, skillful, the tricks, wasn't the quickest, but obviously he was 34, 35 maybe.
Yeah, he was towards the end of his career, wasn't he?
Skill-wise, definitely he was up there with the best of them.
Brilliant. Paul, thanks for joining us tonight. We really appreciate it. We've had lots of views, lots of people commenting. It's been a pleasure and an honour to have one of my heroes from back in the day on. So thanks, Paul.
Thank you very much. I really enjoyed it.
Brilliant. Thanks, Paul. Great to see you, and we'll keep in touch.
Okay, take care.
Thanks a lot. So that is Paul Reid. Reedy. Oh, God, I used to love chanting at people like Reedy and Tommy Wright a bit after. From the Cop, those days, it's just not quite there. It's different now. It's just different. That's all we can say when you go and watch Leicester. Hey, it's been pretty good recently, winning the Premier League, getting into the Europa League. Now, before I let you all go, I'm wearing the new shirt. And if you've not entered yet, we have got one of the new Leicester shirts to give away. Yes, it's got the Europa League badges on it. Yes, they're not the Champions League one, but we are in Europe. We'll take that from back. Again, chatting with Paul Reid, remembers me, or reminds me that, it wasn't always 32,000 crammed into Leicester. Some of those days were 11,000, making sure that we didn't get relegated to whatever it was, League Division 2 back then, that day against Oxford United. So if you want to win that shirt, you just go to leicesterfantv.com. As simple as that. Ross says, blimey, Tom has changed. Yes, Tom's not here. So join us again. The next one is Thursday night, which is tomorrow night, with Locks is hosting. He's got joined by Josh. He's joined by Owen Palmer-Atkin from BBC Radio Leicester and Ian Hume. Hume is joining as well tomorrow night. My name's Phil. This is Leicester Fan TV. Once again, thanks to Paul Reid. It's been absolutely brilliant to have a legend on like him. We'll see you very shortly. Thanks for watching.